Shalom, all praises, blessings, glories, and honors to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha, Quadash. Double honors to my elder apostles and bishop elders of Great Millstone who have taught me this truth, as well of men of like mind. Shalom wa chasad, which means peace and mercy to the elect of the nation of Israel, whom you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners of the seed line of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. To you I say Shalom, beginning with the 144,000, and Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Ratazah. This lesson is edifying and informative. Jeremiah chapter 49 verse 20. Therefore hear the counsel of the Lord Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, that he hath taken against Edom and his purposes, and he had purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. Jeremiah chapter 50 verse 45. Therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, that he hath taken against Babylon and his purposes, that he had purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. In the news from the RT, Iran warns Israel of regional earthquake. U.S. sends second aircraft carrier to Israel's aid. J.P. Morgan boss warns of the most dangerous time. There is still a chance to prevent the Israeli-Palestinian conflict from spilling over, Tehran believes. Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullah Hayyan has urged Israel to end its airstrikes on Gaza, warning that the conflict with Hamas could spread across the region if Israel sends ground forces into the enclave and the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah enters the fray. I know about the scenarios that Hezbollah has put in place, Amir Abdullah Hayyan said in a briefing with reporters in Beirut on Saturday. Any step the resistance will take will cause a huge earthquake for Israel. According to two diplomatic sources cited by Axios, Iran is trying to prevent the war from spreading and seeking to help Israeli civilian hostages being held in Gaza. But if the military operation continues and Israel goes ahead with a ground offense, Iran will have to respond. And this, my brothers and a few sisters, is big news. Because this is a part of the reason why the U.S. will, in its entirety, come to Israel's aid. Because the least of the flock, which is the state of Israel, shall draw them out into the Middle East to be a guard unto them. Because once Iran retaliates, if Israel provokes them, and the U.S. gets further involved in the conflict and become a guard unto Israel, Russia, according to the book of Ezekiel chapter 38, whom is Gog and Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, will become a guard unto the Iranians, the Persians. Okay, this is very huge news. These are the beginning stages, or should I say the most critical beginning stages of the third world's war, which comes quickly, according to Revelation, the 11th chapter, the 14th verse. For we are in a season of war, according to the book of Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, the 8th verse. Hence the reason why these nations have been preparing for war, according to Joel, the 3rd chapter. Beating their plowshares into swords and their pruning hooks into spears. That is to say that they've been taking their economic wealth and using them towards the research, development, enhancements, and modifications of weapons of mass destruction, primarily for ICBM nuclear missiles, which, according to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50, verse 25, are the weapons of the Lord's indignation and preparation for the third world's woe, which cometh quickly, which will be fought in the valley of Jehoshaphat, which in the Hebrew is Yahweh Shaphat, which means Yahweh's judgment. A war, according to Isaiah chapter 9, verse 5, that will be fought with burning and fuel of fire. Okay, so we are living in some very exciting times. Some very highly prophetic times, man. Okay, this is also a very huge sign that that chip is soon going to get mandated across the globe, because once it does, that is when the third world will truly go all out, so to speak, for the lack of words, because the chip has to be mandated first across the globe. Okay, there is still a political opportunity to prevent a widespread crisis in the region, but the minister noted, but maybe in the next few hours it will be too late. This week, the top Iranian diplomat visited Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon, where he met the Hezbollah leader Saeed Hassan Nasrallah, as well as senior Lebanese officials, to discuss the potential outcome and the positions that must be taken in light of the war. Middle East on brink of full-fledged war, Russian ambassador to UN. In a meeting with Lebanese Foreign Minister Abdullah Abu Habib, Amir Abdullah Hayyan accused Israel of war crimes against the people of Gaza and repeated his warning that if Israel does not stop, any possibility is conceivable. Bo Habib backed his counterpart, saying that Lebanon has never sought war, and warning that further escalation will ignite the region and threaten security and peace in it. We are in solidarity with our Palestinian brothers and call for the end of the siege and the delivery of aid to Gaza, Bo Habib stressed. Hezbollah fighters are on full alert along the Lebanon border and have been exchanging sporadic fire with Israel since last Saturday's Hamas incursion that left at least 1,300 Israeli civilians and soldiers dead. The Iran-backed group is considered a major threat to Israel, as it poses some 150,000 rockets and missiles, including precision-guided missiles that can reach anywhere in Israel, as well as thousands of battle-hardened fighters and various types of military drones. The top Iranian diplomat also met with a senior political leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, in Qatar on Saturday evening, but details of the meeting have yet to be disclosed. This includes the article. And so the key point is that if Israel continues its military operation and goes ahead with a ground offense, Iran will have no choice but to respond. And this is very, very serious news. In other headlines, the U.S. sends second aircraft carrier to Israel's aid. Did we not just read in Jeremiah 49 and also in Jeremiah 50 that the least of the flock shall draw them out? It is a process, of course. Nonetheless, it is happening. And it is a part of biblical prophecy. Okay? Washington seeks to deter hostile actions against Israel by any state or non-state action. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has ordered an additional aircraft carrier to deploy to the eastern Mediterranean, seeking to put pressure on Iran, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and other pro-Palestinian forces to stay out of the Israeli-Gaza war. The Pentagon chief announced on Saturday night that the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, carrying 9 aircraft squadrons as well as 2 guided missile destroyers and a guided missile cruise, will soon join the USS Gerald R. Ford carrier group in the region to deter hostile actions against Israel or any efforts toward widening this war following Hamas's attack on Israel. The increases to U.S. force posture signal the United States' ironclad commitment to Israel's security and our resolve to deter any state or non-state actor seeking to escalate this war, Austin stated. And we know who's responsible for this war. Ultimately, the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, on the left-hand side. Okay, so that these prophecies may be fulfilled, come to pass. Okay, the Lord is using these Edomites to forward his prophecies. Okay, we are another day closer to the return of our Lord. In a phone call with his Israeli counterpart, Yoav Gallant, earlier in the day, Austin provided updates on Washington's efforts to continue following air defense capabilities and munitions to the Israeli Defense Forces, but also emphasized the importance of adhering to the law of war, including civilian protection obligations and addressing the worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza while Israel continues its operations to restore security. UN warns of mass ethnic cleansing as refugee shelters overflow. The U.S. administration has so far ruled out sending military personnel into Gaza as part of any Israeli ground operation or attempt to free American hostages there, only aiding the IDF with intelligence and operation planning. The escalation between Israel and Hamas began last Saturday. Notice they don't really talk too much about Ukraine anymore. When the Palestinian military group launched a surprise attack on southern Israel, which left 1,300 Israeli civilians and soldiers dead, as well as at least 120 people, including foreigners, taken hostage. Israel responded with massive airstrikes in Gaza, which have killed upwards of 2,200 Palestinians and displaced over 430,000 inhabitants of the densely populated territory. Israel ordered some 1.1 million residents of northern Gaza to evacuate south, while the Israeli Defense Forces on Saturday, while the Israeli Defense Forces said on Saturday that it is completing preparations for a significant ground operation, which we had just read, that Iran will have no choice but to respond to, which will include a joint and coordinated attack from the air, sea, and land in Gaza. This concludes the article. So things are heating up, man. Okay, the war drums are continuing to beat. Finally, J.P. Morgan boss warns of the most dangerous time. The escalation of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict could exacerbate challenges are already facing the world economy, Jamie Dimon has said. The continuing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, coupled with the escalation of Israel-Palestine hostilities, could have far-reaching consequences for the global economy and geopolitical relations. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon wrote in the company's third quarter earnings report published on Friday. Yeah, banks are in their season of earnings. It says Dimon said that despite the relative health of the U.S. economy, the country has enough challenges to overcome, including a tight labor market, high government debt levels, the threat of further spiking inflation, and the long-term consequences of quantitative tightening, QT, when the Fed liquidates its balance sheet. However, the worsening geopolitical conditions could make the situation infinitely more difficult, he warned. The war in Ukraine, compounded by last week's attacks on Israel, may have far-reaching impacts on energy and food markets, global trade, and geopolitical relationships. This may be the most dangerous time the world has seen in decades, he stated. Dimon told CNN on Friday that American bank executives are climbing the wall of worry, referring to one of the most famous Wall Street truism that explains how markets can remain bullish and economic uncertainty and geopolitical economic uncertainty and geopolitical crisis. We do 100 stress tests a week. Usually, geopolitics presents itself as a deep recession or a mild recession. In markets, doing well is not a reason ever to say they will continue to do well, the CEO stated. Another notable figure in global finance, Ray Dalio, founder of the world's largest hedge fund, Bridgewater Associates, earlier warned that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict may spread beyond the border of the two countries and have far-reaching consequences for the entire global community. In my opinion, this war has a high risk of leading to several other conflicts of different types in a number of places, and it is likely to have harmful effects that will extend beyond those in Israel and Gaza. Delia wrote in a LinkedIn post on Thursday, adding that the Israeli-Hamas war is another classic unfortunate step toward a more violent and encompassing international war. Right. What war is that? Thorough as well. Because it will eventually lead to that, because once Iran responds, game's on, baby. Okay? And eventually Russia's going to get involved and become a guard onto Iran, as the U.S. will become a guard onto Israel. Because remember, again, as it is written, the least of the flock shall draw them out. The escalation of hostilities between the Palestinian militant group, Hamas, which controls much of Gaza, and Israeli Defense Forces, has already caused a surge in global oil prices earlier this week. Analysts say the conflict could destabilize the Middle East, which accounts for more than 1/3 of global seaborne trade, and exacerbate the existing oil supply deficit while sending crude prices skyrocketing. And that concludes the article. So now let's go back to Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 20 and 50 and 45, which pretty much says the same thing, but notice that there is Edom and then there's Babylon, which tells us that Edom is synonymous with Babylon. Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 20, therefore hear the counsel of the Lord Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, that he hath taken against Edom the so-called Caucasian race, beginning with their elites, their banking families, and his purpose is that he had a purpose against the inhabitants of Teman, who are also Edomites. Okay, Germans in particular, whom are Edomites. Surely the least of the flock, which is the state of Israel, shall draw them which is America, Babylon the Great, out where? Into the valley of Jehoshaphat in Middle East. Okay, for the thorough as well. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. How? Through thermonuclear fire. Because not only is the Lord going to destroy the entire land of America, Babylon the Great, according to biblical prophecy, but he will also destroy the land of Israel through nuclear fire to cleanse it. And then in the kingdom, the heathens, the slaves, Okay, the nation that we will have in slavery will rebuild it. Jeremiah chapter 50 verse 45. Therefore he the counsel of the Lord Yahweh through his son Yahweh Shai that he had taken against Babylon, which is the mark of Babylon the Great, also synonymous with Edom. Okay, because Edom is the one that is ruling the mark of Babylon the Great. The earth has been given into their hand, into their power, into their strength. Okay, and their blessing was in the sword that he had taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he had purposed against the land of the Chaldeans, which is a mark of Babylon the Great. Surely the least of the flock, which is the state of Israel, shall draw them out, a mark of Babylon the Great, out into the Middle East. Did we not just read an oracle that the U.S. is sending another ship to aid Israel? Being drawn out into the Middle East by a region of Israel is a process that will only continue to hasten. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them through thermonuclear fire. Okay? So with that, I pray this lesson was edifying and informative. This has been another in the news. Shalom to the elect.